What I'm going to tell you about next is a very new thing. It's not even a project yet. So just yesterday, I flew in here from Singapore, and before that, I was spending 2 weeks in Bhutan, the small Himalayan kingdom nestled between Tibet and India. And I was doing a project there about happiness, interviewing a lot of local people. So Bhutan has this really wacky thing where they base most are high-level governmental decisions around the concept of gross national happiness instead of gross domestic product. And they've been doing this since the 70s, and it leads to just a completely different value system. It's an incredibly non-materialistic culture where people don't have a lot, but they're incredibly happy. So I went around and I talked to people about some of these ideas. So I did a number of things. I asked people a number of set questions and took a number of set photographs and interviewed them with audio and also took pictures. I would start by asking people to rate their happiness between 1 and 10, which is kind of inherently absurd. And then when they answered, I would inflate that number of balloons and give them that number of balloons to hold. So you have some really happy person holding 10 balloons and some really sad soul holding 1 balloon. But even holding 1 balloon is like kind of happy. And then I would ask them a number of questions, like what was the happiest day in their life, what makes them happy, and then finally I would ask them to make a wish. And when they made a wish, I would write their wish onto one of the balloons and take a picture of them holding it. So I'm going to show you now just a few brief snippets of some of the interviews that I did, some of the people I spoke with. This is an 11-year-old student. He was playing cops and robbers with his friends running around town, and they all had plastic toy guns. His wish was to become a police officer. He was getting started early. Those were his hands. I took pictures of everybody's hands because I think you can often tell a lot from somebody about how their hands look. I took a portrait of everybody and asked everybody to make a funny face. A 17-year-old student. Her wish was to have been born a boy. She thinks that women have a pretty tough go at things in Bhutan, and it's a lot easier if you're a boy. A 28-year-old cell phone shop owner. If you knew what Paro looked like, you'd understand how amazing it is that there's a cell phone shop there. He wanted to help poor people. A 53-year-old farmer. She was chafing wheat, and that pile of wheat behind her had taken her about a week to make. She wanted to keep farming until she dies. You can really start to see the stories told by the hands here. She was wearing this silver ring that had the word love engraved on it, and she found it in the road somewhere. A 16-year-old quarry worker. This guy was breaking rocks with a hammer in the hot sunlight. But he just wanted to spend his life as a farmer. A 21-year-old monk. He was very happy. He wanted to live a long life in the monastery. He had this amazing series of hairs growing up on the left side of his face, which I'm told is very good luck. He was kind of too shy to make a funny face. A 16-year-old student. She wanted to become an independent woman. I asked her about that, and she said she meant that she doesn't want to be married because, in her opinion, when you get married in Bhutan as a woman, your chances to live an independent life kind of end. And so she had no interest in that. A 24-year-old truck driver. There are these terrifyingly huge Indian trucks that come careening around one-lane roads with two-lane traffic with 3,000-foot drop-offs right next to the road. And he was driving one of these trucks. But all he wanted was just to live a comfortable life like other people. A 24-year-old road sweeper. I caught her on her lunch break. She'd built a little fire to keep warm right next to the road. Her wish was to marry someone with a car. She wanted a change in her life. She lives in a little workers' camp right next to the road, and she wanted a different lot on things. An 81-year-old itinerant farmer saw this guy on the side of the road, and he actually doesn't have a home. He travels from farm to farm each day trying to find work, and then he tries to sleep at whatever farm he gets work at. So his wish was to come with me so that he had somewhere to live. He had this amazing knife that he pulled out of his go and started brandishing when I asked him to make a funny face. He's all good-natured. A 10-year-old. He wanted to join a school and learn to read, but his parents didn't have enough money to send him to school. He was eating this orange sugary candy that he kept dipping his fingers into, and since there was so much saliva on his hands, this orange paste started to form on his palms. A 37-year-old road worker. One of the more touchy political subjects in Bhutan is the use of Indian cheap labor that they import from India to build the roads, and then they send these people home once the roads are built. So these guys were in a workers' gang mixing up asphalt one morning on the side of the highway. And his wish was to make some money and open a store. A 75-year-old farmer, she was selling oranges on the side of the road. I asked her about a wish, and she said, you know, maybe I'll live, maybe I'll die, but I don't have a wish. She was chewing betel nut, which caused her teeth over the years to turn very red. Finally, this is a 26-year-old nun I spoke to. Her wish was to make a pilgrimage to Tibet. I asked her how long she planned to live in the nunnery, and she said, well, you know, of course it's impermanent, but my plan is to live here until I'm 30 and then enter a hermitage. And I said, you mean like a cave? And she said, yeah, like a cave. And I said, wow, and how long will you live in the cave? And she said, well, you know, I think I'd kind of like to live my whole life in the cave. I just thought that was amazing. I mean, she spoke in a way with amazing English and amazing humor and amazing laughter that made her seem like somebody I could have bumped into on the streets in New York or in Vermont, where I'm from. But here she had been living in a nunnery for the last 7 years. I asked her a little bit more about the cave and what she planned would happen once she went there. You know, what if she saw the truth after just 1 year? What would she do for the next 35 years in her life? And this is what she said.
I think I cannot stay for 35. Maybe die.
Maybe you'll die.
Yes.
Well, 10 years. 10 years
Yes,
even
yeah.
is a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not maybe 10 years. Maybe I can die within 1 year or something like that.
Are you hoping to?
Because you know it's impermanent.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Do you hope would you prefer to live in the cave for 40 years or to live for 1 year?
But I prefer for maybe 40 to 50.
40 to 50.
Yes.
Yeah.
From then I'm going to the
Yeah.
heaven.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wish you the best of luck with it.
Thank you.
I hope it's everything that you hope it will be. So, okay. Thank you again so much.
You're most welcome.
So if you caught that, she said she hoped to die when she was around 40. That was enough life for her. So the last thing we did, very quickly, is I took all of those wish balloons. There were 117 interviews, 117 wishes, and brought them up to a place called Dochula, which is a mountain pass in Bhutan at 10,300 feet, one of the more sacred places in Bhutan. And up there are thousands of prayer flags that people have spread out over the years. And we reinflated all of the balloons, put them up on a string, and hung them up there among the prayer flags. And they're actually still flying up there today. So if any of you have any Bhutan travel plans in the near future, you can go check these out. Here are some images from that. We said a Buddhist prayer so that all these wishes could come true. You can start to see some familiar balloons here. To make some money and open a store was the Indian road worker. Thanks very much.